Welcome back to another episode of the Autonomy podcast. This week, I've got Samantha Jordan on to talk about her role of getting in shape, being coach, also whilst running a full house of little kids and being a mum. Should be very, very entertaining. Hey, Sam, how are you?
Hi, Nate. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. It's nice on a Monday morning. Everyone's starting their week, and I'm already 2 days in, which is awesome. You know, I always love the Dubai weekend here.
Yeah.
So I wanted to get you on to just talk about how, we obviously did a shoot very recently. You're now in a muscle building phase, but also just, you are a parent, and I just want to kind of get as many people out there that have had really good experiences, that have changed the way that they do things from a fitness and health perspective, who are parents and who are like Joe blogs to as best just like things that are going to be quite common across families. So first of all, for the listeners, who is Sam? You know, what how many people do you have in your family? What do you do? What did you do previously? You know, who is Sam?
So, who is Sam? Well, I'm a mum of two girls. They're both at school. And prior to having children, I was always well into my fitness. There was always something I was doing. Even at school, I was always doing a club at PE. I would always wanted to be the best at PE. I'm quite competitive. So fitness has always been a massive part of my life. And then obviously when I left school and college, I just got into the gym, but I never really knew what I was doing, to be fair. I just used to go to classes. I used to just be that, everyday mum that used to go to the gym. I had no idea about weight training. And it was a big part of my life, and it obviously helped me. But there was not really any structure to my life there at the gym. So I had children, I got married, had children. Gym was still part of my life, but I was never really, really fit, as in, my fitness level. And it wasn't until a few years ago, I used to work with a girl who she signed me up for the London Marathon, and I had never even run a mile. I was absolutely exhausted, even though as a youngster, I was very fit. But as an adult, I lost, because of the children and stuff like that. I just lost it all. But she signed me up for this marathon, and I was in it, and I had to train for it. And I think that's where it started for me, is I knew I had to complete this marathon. So I trained with her, and I really got into fitness from doing that. And then having other more children and stuff like that, it took a bit of a backseat because I was just so busy. And I went back to work. I worked in the corporate world. I was full-time prior to the kids up in the city, and life was full on. Then I had the children, went part-time, and it was hard. I found it hard to get to the gym. I found it hard to exercise, and it just got to a point in my life after having the children that every time I looked in the mirror, nothing looked any different. I was just unhappy. I had no body confidence. I used to cover up a lot. And I just was not happy. Like when we used to go on holiday, I just used to look at the women on the beach, and I just used to go, I wish I looked like that. And then 5 years ago, I knew I wasn't going to have any more kids. So I just thought, right, this is it now. I'm going to make a change to my life. I need to do something about it. And I hired a coach. I got in contact with a coach, and I didn't look back really. And I had structure in my life. It was probably the best thing I'd done. I learned about weight training. I learned about my diet. I've never been a massive eater. I was never massively overweight. So mindset for me was, I'm quite controlled. I was never an emotional eater or anything like that. It's just that I just didn't have shape to my body, and I was just unhappy. So learning about nutrition and getting into the gym, it was amazing. And it did take me about a year because I didn't rush it. I wanted to live life normally while I was doing it. But I did work very, very hard because I knew that I wanted it that bad. I really did want to have a lean body. I've never had a six pack, and I never have been in a shape like that before. And I just knew I had to do something about it. And it took me about a year, and I haven't looked back. And that's where the bug really got me. Continued working in the corporate world part-time, but always found that I never settled, never settled in the corporate world after that. And all I could think about was getting to the gym. That was it. I need to go to the gym. I want to be doing this. And it was just became a massive passion of mine. So I recently decided that last year that I'm going to, and also with COVID and lockdown and everything, it was just working from home. And I just thought I need to change my life. I'm not happy. I've got the fitness passion now, but my career is not, I'm not happy in my career. So I took the plunge and I did it. I went online and became a coach myself. And it's the best thing I've ever done, because not only am I doing something like fitness for me, I'm also doing it as a job. So from what I've learned over 5 years, I'm now going to implement that into a career of mine. And every day I get up and enjoy what I do. And also make sure I still train, because that's still a big part of my life. And I am very much a big person about practice what you preach. If you're going to be an online coach, if you're going to be a PT, I do feel, in my own opinion, that you need to understand, go through the journey yourself. So when you're getting clients on and training clients, they understand what you've been through. You understand what they're going through. So it's really, really important that you lead by example of how the journey is. So I'm really, really pleased I've done it myself, because I know and I understand exactly what they go through, the struggles and anything like that. But the thing that is hard, going back to your question about being a mum, I have very limited time, very, very limited time in my day. So I have to get my kids to school. I literally work 9 till 2, because I then got to pick them up. And I do feel like I'm fitting a lot in, because I have to fit training in, I have to fit work in, I have to fit in dealing with clients. And so my time is quite limited. I don't have a lot of time in the evenings, like most people, because I have children. And I do run around. They're very active, my children. I'm not a mum that will let them stay at home and sit and watch telly. They have to be out doing a club. They have to be out gymnastics, hockey, whatever their passion is, they have to be out doing something active. And so, of course, that's for me. I have to run them around. So I don't get a lot of time. My day is limited, but I'm very productive. So the hours that I do work, I make sure I'm head down in those hours that I do have. But yeah, it's hard. It is really, really hard. I wish I had a bit more time. But as the girls get older, I'm hoping things will be a little bit less stress for me. But I do struggle. I have days where I really do struggle and think, but I do allow time at the weekends as well with them. Like, it's really, really important that we do stuff as a family. Yeah. So.
Yeah, it's so important.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's hard.
That resonates well with me. Like, you sound like the childhood that I had is probably what your kids are having right now. Like, I was at a club every single night, and my dad still to this day reminds me of how much he used to take me around, and how he used to wait outside swimming and then go to football the day after, and then he'd sit in the rain and watch me play football on a Saturday, and he'd take me to gymnastics on a Sunday. And that lifestyle is like, well, it's the best for the kids, but I can imagine being a parent is like, it's not the funnest places to be, just like sitting there or whatnot, but you do it for the betterment of the kids, right? So, and
you do wish you have a driver.
Yeah.
I wish I had a driver, but I'm not really at that point in my career where I can afford a driver.
Yeah.
One day, hopefully.
Yeah, hopefully. So you mentioned that structure was really important. Like, because you made 2 massive changes, what you just spoke about then. You made one massive change, which was, I'm not having any kids anymore, I'm going to get in shape. Then you were like, I'm not happy in where I am right now, I'm going to change that. So those 2 big, like, fundamental shifts are quite similar in decision making. How you mentioned about structure being super important within that first journey that you took with your first coach. Like, what does that look like now? How are you structuring things? What are you thinking about when structuring things, to get everything that you've got in, you know?
So how do I plan my week?
Yeah, what do you think about, what was it like before?
Oh,
What was your structure before, like, utilizing the
oh,
coaching?
well, there wasn't really any structure. So when I had the before I had children, it was just like get up, go to work. That was it. Come home, city life, work stupid hours, come home burnt out, go redo it again every day. When I was going to the gym, I'd go my lunch hour at work, so I would try and find some time to fit in. Then I had the children, and life just stopped fitness wise. I just didn't have the time. There's only 2.5 year gap between them, so after having the first one, I tried to get back into fitness, but then I fell pregnant again. But there was no structure. It was just an everyday thing, get up, look after the kids. Wasn't working at first, and I found it really, really hard. I'm not someone that can stay at home and just look after children. I need structure in my life. I do need a routine. I am that person that needs routine and structure. I can't just get up and just think, well, what am I going to do today? Oh, what's today going to bring? Every We have routine in our house now. Every day is a routine. I schedule everything out for everybody. So previously there was not a lot of structure, and now having 2 children, family, running a business, trying to train myself, keeping things above board, because you have to factor in lots of things when you have children. It's not just about you. And I have to structure and plan their days as well as mine. And I am a little bit OCD when it comes to things like that, because if I don't plan it in or have routine, then the week will be a mess. Our days will be a mess. Everything is regimented, and that does probably sound a bit sad, but we have to have that routine in our lives. Otherwise, things won't go as they should do, and things will just be a mess. So, an example is something really silly, like I always have their school uniform ready for them to put on as soon as they get up. They have a routine. We have a time we leave. I have a time we pick up. And that's where I do my steps. I factor in my steps every day because I've got children. So instead of me driving to pick my kids up from school, I will walk, because that's really, really important. And then at weekends, they are at clubs. So we've got a routine, we've got a structure. My husband will fit his training in, I'll do my run. And then Sunday's a chill out day. But some days I try and study if we're not doing anything. But yeah, so it is like before, not really much structure. Now, very structured. Everything is regimented in our house.
Yeah, I think it has to be in some degree, because there's two statements. One is where structure equals freedom, right? So when you don't have structure, you can't have freedom, whether it's time for yourself or time with the kids. That's plentiful, that's meaningful, because if you don't have the structure where they're doing X, Y, and Z, everything's a bit of a fuffle, and you never really get that golden quality time. When it's time for golden quality time, you've actually got it in your diary to be able to have that. And then the walk with the girls on the way home is equally quality time, because that's time that you're going to be spending with them, and equally you can then plan in those freedom days or whatnot. And then obviously the other thing is like the quote that goes alongside this is like whatever you measure, you manage, right? So if you measure and you're looking at the times what they need to be doing in the day, and the things that are non-negotiable, with the uniform that they need, and the dinner that they're going to have, and the sandwiches that you need to make, or whatever you make for lunch, which we'll come on to in a minute, and then in the evening with whatever food they're going to eat as well. Like, there has to be some level of like, you're going to need all of these variables so that you don't run out of shopping, or you don't give them nothing to eat, or the uniform goes creased, or they don't get enough trousers, or whatever it is. Like some of my friends who when I was younger, you could tell like some of the family weren't that organized, and they'd come in with the wrong t-shirt on or their sister's top on because they didn't have enough tops for the week, or they didn't wash it at the right time. So, you always miss these little bits and bobs, but it's really, really important.
It's just the little things. Like last night, this is really, really funny, but I actually woke my husband up at about 11 o'clock at night and went, oh, Andy, you need to get a padlock. Lisa, Isabella needs a padlock for a locker at school. He literally got up and found a padlock for her. But these are the things that the girl's life is really important to me, that their life is good, because I don't want them going to school without structuring their life. So I am, as a mum, I am quite overloaded. I must admit, I do feel quite overloaded. So I have to think for 3 of us. Oh, my husband looks after himself, obviously, but, I do have to think for 3 of us. It's not just about me. And some days I do really struggle. Like, I just think, oh my God, how am I going to get all this done today? Like, I've got this to do. And when you work for yourself, and especially with what the kind of job we do, you've got to make sure that you're executing what you've promised. You've got to turn up. You've got to be, and it is tough, but I make sure I get it done. I just productive and structure it in. And one thing that I have really, really learned since being an online coach is that I don't try and do too much in one day. I do 1 or 2 good things that I can get done and not stress about it. I used to get really, really stressed and have anxiety and worry because I just couldn't get everything done, and then I used to beat myself up over it. But you learn that as you go on, you get experienced in it. So.
Yeah. But even with anything that goes to any job or any type of routine, is that when you overload it and you expect loads from yourself, the people will do 1 or 2 things, right? They'll either overload themselves like we would, and then you've got the people that don't believe that they can even do 1 or 2 things, so that they don't even push themselves a little bit. So you've got the 2 camps really, and obviously the blend is in the middle somewhere, like just enough to be able to fit it into your lifestyle, but enough to be able to do the things that you need to do, as opposed to leaving yourself short. One thing I want to just touch on now is, like, obviously quite routine and structured with everything. What type of principles or habits are you trying to teach the kids with nutrition as they go through their years? Like, is there anything that you're purposely doing from a food perspective or nutrition or habits perspective that you're filtering into their day to ensure that they get some good knowledge, good education, but also like fuel them for their growth?
Yeah. Obviously when I do my dieting phase, I do talk to them about it, because I don't want them growing up as teenagers thinking that, because I do say to them that when you're doing a fat loss and dieting phase, they don't understand like we would understand it, but I do it within sort of, it's trying to explain to them sort of at their level. So I say to them, mummy's got a shoot coming up or an event, so mummy has to prepare for that event. And the way I have to do that means mummy's going to have to just watch what she eats for a little while, but that's not forever. So when mummy comes out of that dieting phase, she's going to be eating normal again, okay? So I don't want them getting paranoid, think that you'd have to cut food out of your life, that you've got to diet down like this. It's not forever. So the one thing I am conscious of, especially my older daughter, because she's coming into the teenage years, that she's not paranoid about food, that she's not going to undereat, and that, because they've never been massive eaters anyway. So we are quite lucky as a family. We haven't got any eating problems. Like, we eat, my husband's the same. We eat sufficient enough calories. When we're full, we're full. We don't push it. We very rarely have food in our house that is not got nutrition in it. We have the odd thing, but then at the same time I don't deprive them of their stuff that they should have as children. They're allowed sweets, they're allowed chocolate, they're allowed biscuits, but the limitations are there. So if they ask me for a biscuit, they'll ask me how many, and I'll say, what ones are you having? They'll say, I don't know, chocolate digestive. I go, right, you can have 2, but then they don't necessarily want to. So I do let them sort of choose what they like. But my kids are very, very good at asking. They won't just go grab it out of the cupboard. They are very, very good in that ways. And I think that's because as a parent, when I was a child, we always had to ask, you know, and there was always please, there was always a thank you. And we appreciated food, because when I was a youngster, my mum and dad didn't have it much. You know, I remember at one point, this is quite funny, I think my mum cut our Mars bar in three, and we had to share the Mars bar. So as you grow up as an adult, you appreciate food. You really do. That it doesn't just come. You can't just. It doesn't just come from anywhere. Like it is part of. It does become part of your life, obviously, because you've got to live.
Yeah.
But to understand that there are limitations with food. So they will have their breakfast, they will have lunch at school, and then they will come home and they will have their dinner. But if they're exercising, they'll sometimes have their dinner after their exercise, because I say to them, I don't want you getting stitched, you'll be sick, you've got to let it digest. So in a way, I am coaching them a little bit, but from a mother's perspective. But no, food wise, I always make sure they have sufficient nutrients in their diet. They eat very well, but they'll eat when they're hungry. They're not constant eaters. And even then, sometimes I say to my daughter, is that enough? Do you want something else? No, fine. So they'll be honest with me and just say, Mum, can I have this? Mum, can I have that? Mum, I don't want that, I'm full. But they don't eat with us. That's one thing as a family, we don't eat together, because my children have to eat earlier, and I can't eat at 4 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon. We've got routine in our house where they have their dinner when they get in from school, then they go off to their clubs. My husband and I will then pick them up, and whilst one of us is picking them up, one of them's cooking the dinner. So when they're home at a reasonable time, like 7, 8, we'll then probably have our evening meal, and me and Andy will eat, you know, very much to the meal plan or what we've got. We plan our food for the week. Yeah. But yeah, no, I don't ram food down there. You know, it is quite a normal life for them. But when I go through dieting phases, I do explain to them what I'm doing, because I don't want them to think that is what you should be doing all the time, because you can't sustain that for the long term. But I always talk to them about it's really important that they have veg in their diet, protein in their diet. Obviously, to them, protein is chicken and things like that. I don't say protein, but yeah. So, but they're very good. They're just, and they're very active. So I don't really mind too much about what they eat, because they are very, very active children. They are on the go constantly, so they are constantly burning calories. They don't sit, watch telly. You know, they're not allowed to do that. They have time with tablets and iPads, but a lot in the week, about an hour. And also they're asleep, so make sure they get sufficient sleep because of the blue lights from the iPads. But yeah, so I think from a diet perspective, they live a normal life as most kids, and they're just not greedy, and they ask, and they always check if it's okay to have it.
Like it's really good conditioning in that sense. Like I can definitely not relate to that, because I was the opposite end of the spectrum, where my family and the family around are very, very large individuals, and it was a race to eat the dinner at the dinner table and get seconds, and it was always encouraged to finish your plate and make sure that the food was all done and dusted, because like in my family as well, they didn't grow up with very much, but it was very encouraged in that moment to be like, what you do have, you make the most out of it. So there's like the same type of situation, but two different philosophies, which is it's really interesting. And like you say that then that normal kid, you'd probably be surprised on maybe how many of the kids in their classes probably grew up with the same conditioning that I had, which is like finish the plate and make sure that you eat it all. And
there's a lot.
And these things are, whilst we don't want to admit it, these are the things that change your 20s, they change your 30s, because they're so hard to decondition, and the hardest things to move out of. Like I totally agree with what you're doing with your little ones now, but that's the way to have it, where they're full and they learn what hunger is and they learn what fullness is. Whereas I didn't
Mm,
ever learn what fullness is. I learned what a full plate looked like and what then a finished plate looked like, and
mm,
they're not the same thing. You know, if you take 100 people to a restaurant, 100 people need different portion sizes because they have different sizes of bodies and different hunger levels. Whereas if you've been conditioned the way that I've been conditioned or the way that I used to be, you're going to clean the plate regardless. Whereas
mm.
like your kids that go to that restaurant and they may eat a quarter, they may eat a half, and that will lead them to managing their calories better and honoring their hunger signal. So I think those small conditionings, like you look at all the
Mm.
intricacies of them, and they'll be lasting
Yeah,
a long time.
no, it definitely, your kids will turn out to be how you show them. So there are children in their classes and at school that are very, very overweight and obese, and it saddens me when I walk to my daughter to school and I see them standing outside the gates with their family who is overweight. And I feel sorry for them, because I just feel like that's what they know. Their parents feed them like that. That they don't. Let's be honest. A 10-year-old does not go get their own dinner, but they don't. It's served up to them, and that is the portion size they're given. So how will they know any different? And that things like that do is sort of a things I get quite upset about, that because that poor child has no chance, and he will continue. They will continue like that, and then that will go into their family, and then it just goes. It's that vicious cycle. It's really, really important that you show your children good nutrition and portion size and control. And I think maybe my mum probably did that with us. We were never overweight as children. We were always active. We were always out. And I think um, you follow that through as an adult yourself. And it was the same with my partner. He was always out on his bike, running, playing football. His mum would be the same. They make sure that they controlled their food, their diet. And I think as a family, we're not massive food people. Like, it's not a massive part of our life. We need it, but we could take it or leave it. We're not, oh, I've got to finish that. Like, for me, I don't always finish my plate. If I'm full up, I won't finish it. And people will say to me, "We've only got a little bit left." I was like, "Yeah, but I don't want it. I'm full. I don't want that extra mouthful. It'll make me feel sick." And that's the control and mindset that I have. It's just, I'm not worried about gaining weight or anything like that. I'm quite happy. When I come out of dieting phase, I put a few kilos on, but it doesn't bother me. I don't go, "Oh my God, I put like loads of weight on," because I know how to control my food. I know how to deal with situations, and I don't get concerned. I don't have an emotional eating problem, which I've been very lucky with, because I know some people do, and it's really, really hard. People don't know how to say no. People don't know when to stop. And I think from doing your own journey, you people I have clients that actually say to me that, "I can't believe I used to eat that much. I can't, I want to get back on it." Like, if they've been on holiday or something like that, been to an all inclusive, they've gone mad. They're like, "I can't wait to get back. I don't like that feeling of feeling full," because I personally don't like it. It's horrible.
Mm.
That feeling when, like, you've had a week away and all you've done is eat, drink every day, becomes a massive part of your holiday. I can't wait to get back to routine, and like that awful feeling of that bloatness. It's horrible.
Yeah.
And if you sort of have that mentality and show your kids that, and also clients that, then they do start to understand it. Like, it's an awful feeling to have, like, if you feel like that all the time, bloatness.
Yeah.
um
It's often ignored, isn't it, for the bigger picture of the enjoyment of the meal or the having the luxuries of the desserts and whatnot. But like when you go to the all inclusive, it's about fun for 2 days. When you do that, like maybe you get one dessert on the Monday, and then it's really exciting, and then by the Tuesday or the Wednesday, you've probably had most of the food that's on offer, and you're already like, oh my God, like I'm bloated and just eating for eating's sake now. And it's that
yeah
it's that opportunist mentality, because you haven't had the you
Yeah.
haven't had all of these fruits and haven't had all of these things that
Yeah.
are on offer to you. But also,
Yeah.
you've probably bigged it up and you want to get your money's worth as well, which is another conditional
Yeah.
conditional mentality that often leads people into those
Yeah.
abilities not to say no.
Yeah. Because like with all the inclusive holidays, like, I have been on quite a few. I mean, I remember when I went on my very first one, and I was young, so I didn't really need to worry about food, but I was like, oh my God, this is just like amazing. It's like there's just food coming out my ears. It's just like this is just awesome. But as you do it more often throughout your life, you don't need to do it. You just go have your breakfast, and then I probably wouldn't have lunch, because if I'm fueling up at breakfast, I probably wouldn't want lunch. I'd like to wait to have my dinner and like enjoy the dinner. So me and my husband are actually we're both quite like that, which is quite good. So we're quite supportive with each other. But we can't do, if I have like eggs, bacon, sausage, all that in the morning, like what we call the big English, I probably wouldn't have lunch. I would rather have a few drinks round by the pool. And if someone's walking around with some fruit, I'll probably have fruit. And then I won't need anything else. The girls might want an ice cream. They might want some chips. I'll go get some chips or something like that. But we would only go probably to a restaurant at lunchtime or something to eat to get out of the sun and hydrate.
Yeah.
And then we would have something very, very small, like a salad, or, we don't do the big, oh yeah, right, let's have a big pizza for lunch. And then you've got dinner. And it's just like your body cannot, you'll push it and push it and push it, but you shouldn't be doing that. It's just not healthy.
Yeah.
But until you have that, like you say, it's the whole get your money's worth, isn't it? It will be there tomorrow. You're there for 2 weeks. Enjoy it. Like, don't go all out in the first few days of doing it, because you're not going to appreciate the 2 weeks you're there. And you just go, oh, I'm sick of this. So you'll be sick of the sight of food. So I'm at that mentality now, though, where we just eat what we like and we just moderate it out. And the only thing for us when we go on holiday, the things we might go over calorie wise is more having more drink, to be honest, because we're not big drinkers. So having a drink on holiday, like having it there available, is quite good, like a special thing for us.
Mm-hmm.
Like a beer at 11.
Yeah.
That doesn't happen when you're in the UK.
No.
It's just little things like that. We'd probably appreciate that more than we would be having what's for lunch.
Yeah.
It doesn't bother me. Really doesn't bother me.
Yeah.
But I know it's there for 2 weeks, so I don't worry about it. If I want it, I'll have it another day.
Yeah. If you can have it tomorrow, then it loses its. But people don't like to think like that. Like, if you could think like, oh, it's going to be there tomorrow. Okay, so then do I really need to have it today? Then you start elongating, instead of you enjoying to max the first 3 days where you shove everything down your gob, then you feel shit for 5 days. But if you actually was like, okay, well, I can have the pizza for lunch on the Wednesday or the Thursday, and then, oh, look, they got a fruit platter, so maybe I'll have the fruit platter today instead. And then, oh, they do dessert after the main meal, and I'll have that next week or something like that. And you start planning things out. Not even planning it, but like, so you start reasoning why you shouldn't just blow it all in one go.
No,
and then you start enjoying the 2 weeks instead of the first 3 days.
Yeah,
it's just an interesting concept.
And I use the same tactics with my kids. Like, I say to them, do you girls want some lunch? And they'll go, no, I'm still full up from breakfast, because they'll have eggs and, they'll fill them up, start with protein, carbs and stuff like that. And they really do like their breakfast on holiday. And then I say, well, do you girls want something to eat for lunch? And they'll go, no, can I just have an ice cream? Or they're just so busy in the pool that they forget to even eat. And I'm not going to pull them out of the pool and go, come on, we're eating. They'll eat when they're ready to eat. Kids eat when they're hungry. You shouldn't force it on them. And then they'll be ready for their dinner in the evening. Because the big thing for me is when you go on holiday, that's when we get to sit down as a family and talk. And I want them to eat dinner. So I don't want them being full up and bloated, and then they're sitting at the dinner table bored because they're sitting there like, oh, I don't want this, So we have quite a lot of structure. Again, holiday, when we go on holiday, we have structure, we have routine. I know that sounds stupid, but you have to with kids. They like routine and structure for their day. So we will get up, we'll go get breakfast, we'll go back, put cream on, go down to the pool, whatever we're doing. They'll spend a couple of hours there, and then we'll go and get out the sun, go and have some drinks, have an ice cream, go back to the pool. There is always a bit of structure in our life, because they like that. Otherwise, it's constant, Mum, what we doing today? Mum, what we doing today? Mum, what we doing today? They need to know, and that's why I say about getting the uniform out or clothes out for the next day. Like my older one, she deals with herself. Sorry, my internet might be a bit unstable. But the younger one, she's a lot younger, so I will get her clothes out for the next day because she knows where she's going and what she's doing. And I've always done that with her since a young age. She needs routine and structure in her life. And then she knows what she's doing. And then I know that she's going to sleep better because she knows what she's doing. Yeah.
It's like everybody needs this. It's not just kids as well, but we often forget that when we're older because we think that we can just wing the day or we can just go about our day because there's no perceived immediate ramification for not having structure. You don't see like someone like you die straight away or like you're injured or there's pain, right? But there's no like immediate sacrifice for it. But it's that long term, that medium term type of like you look back in your week and say, oh, what the hell have I done? Or was I effective as I should be? Or was I, did I do everything I wanted to do? And when you start asking you those questions, you start thinking, I haven't done half the things I wanted to do. And then that's when you start thinking, well, maybe you need to put some more structure in place.
Yeah, no, we've definitely got structure in our house. It's just, it has to be. As a family, you need structure because how the hell would you get through the week? That'd be a nightmare, that kind of thing. So it's just, not knowing where their tie is or where their shoes are, and I see it in my own family with my brother and his wife. Their kids don't have much structure in their life, and my mum goes, oh my God, you're so organised. I was like, well, I have to be. I've got 2 children. We need structure. We've got to do this, this, and this. So my mum does when she comes to say to me, she says, oh, I'm exhausted because she just sees what we do. Like she said, you're non-stop. And I am non-stop. And I think that's probably why I'm like for me, steps is an issue because it's just, I am on the go constantly with children. But I'd rather that. Apart from working, sitting down, doing a couple of hours work, I would rather be active. I can't be sat down for hours. It drives the hell out. It bores the hell out of me. I can't do it. I like activity. I like being out in the fresh air. I like, and that's why when I do the school run, I always do steps. And also it's for my daughter because she's been sitting down most of the day at school. So come on, and I know it sounds silly, but they have Fitbits and they do say to me, Mummy, I've done 10,000 steps today. So it's having that them now. They're getting to understand that you do need to keep active. You do need to keep going. Yeah. It's not about just sitting down. So when they become adults, and hopefully they will move into the fitness, like go to the gym, and when they've left school, they'll get into the gym. And they're at an advantage because they're going to have me to help them, and support them to do that. And I think they will because they do enjoy sports. They do enjoy fitness. And I think doing it from a young age, it usually goes into the adult life. Some people, it's just not them. And I think that's because it hasn't been shown to them as a young child how active you should be. So it's really, really important.
You see, most people I deal with are like South Asian, Indian, and like their childhood is completely different. Like they don't do much of a sporting background. They'll just do maybe one sport a week, or they'll only get into sport when they go to school at like 15 or 16, and that's where they do most of their sporting activities. But from the ages of, I was doing sport from 5. I was doing gymnastic classes and swimming at 5, and then it didn't stop until I was 18. I was doing sport 3 or 4 times a week the whole time. And that's a different type of lifestyle. And you do build up a base of cardiovascular fitness, routine, structure, actually discipline. If you do something like the martial arts / gymnastics side of things, there's a code that you have to follow, and like you have to do these. I remember in gymnastics, and when I used to coach it as well, there's like these like things that you do at the beginning of every session. There's a specific drill that you do. There's a specific way that you finish the session. In martial arts, there's a specific way that you start and finish. Like the discipline that you get shown, the fitness that you get, it does really transpire into adult life. And you can definitely tell when you have conversations with people who were sporty or fitness when they were younger, just by the way that they act when they're older as well, because it normally flows into that too.
Yeah, no, they're quite lucky, because both of us as parents were always into our sports as youngsters. And I've been quite lucky that when I met Andy, he was really into his football, into all the activity, like golf. He did everything. Did loads as a kid. And even in his spare time, he was cycling. He'd cycle to school, he'd run to school, so activity in our life is fitness is a massive part of our family. We are very active, but we do like our downtime as well. Like literally on a Sunday, our steps are probably quite low, because as a family we're so active 6 days a week that we do actually just like to chill, read a book, or if the weather's nice, we'll sit in the garden, we'll do a bit of gardening. We do like to chill. So we do, we're up early, we go to bed. Well, we try to go to bed too late, but sometimes that doesn't always, depends what's happening that evening. But it's just it's non-stop. It is non-stop in our house. But I don't think I would change it for anything. I think I'd rather have that life than be bored. I can't be bored. I need to be doing stuff. And even in lockdown, there was always something that I would find for us to do. Yeah. They would have to do their schoolwork. They would have to start school at a certain time at the breakfast bar, and then they would have that structure. And it was hard. It was really, really hard, because I have one child that's not as focused as the other. And when you're trying to work at home and you've got children at home trying to do schoolwork with them and they're not as into it, it can cause a lot of stress levels in the house, when you're all at home like that.
Yeah.
So when we came out of lockdown, it was just like, oh my God, thank God. Yeah, it was just not healthy.
No.
Yeah.
I need to go to the gym now, so I need to go and do my fitness and health and
Fabulous.
stuff. So thank you very much for the chat. I really appreciate it. It was some good conversation. And we'll be checking in with you soon anyway, because it's check-in day tomorrow.
Brilliant. Thanks, Nathan. It's been great talking to you.
Yeah, thank you very much. I really appreciate you coming on.
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you.
Bye.
Catch you soon. Take care. Bye.